Welcome to The Naked Entrepreneur. I'm Dr. Sean Wise, and today I'm joined by Michael Lee Chin, Chairman and CEO of Portland Holdings. Portland Holdings is a privately held investment company that manages public and private equity and owns a collection of diversified businesses operating global in sectors that include telecommunications, financial services, media, tourism, agriculture, and waste management. Michael Lee Chin is a Jamaican-Canadian business magnate, investor, and philanthropist. He has a net worth rumored to be close to $4 billion as of March 2018. That makes him the 20th richest man in Canada. Michael made headlines when he pledged to donate $30 million to the Royal Ontario Museum. He's also supported the Rotman School of Management in opening an Institute for Corporate Citizenship and the newly opened Patient Tower at Burlington's Joseph Brant Hospital. In 2016, Michael Lee Chin was appointed chairman of the Government of Jamaica's Economic Growth Council. He's also been appointed to Ontario's highest honor. In 2017, Michael received the Order of Ontario. He's also been awarded one of Jamaica's highest national honors, the Order of Jamaica. He is also the recipient of the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal and holds the position of Chancellor at Wilfrid Laurier University. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Sean.
Tell me about growing up in the early 60s in Jamaica.
Well, both my parents were clerks in a supermarket. And so I was I am the eldest of 9 kids. In a small community, you're able to roam around freely. So I can remember this particular day I went to a site overlooking the harbor in Port Antonio, and I was contemplating life at 10. And I thought, how can the child of 2 clerks in a supermarket one day own the supermarket? So I was pondering that.
What made you want to even think like that? Why did you not want to just be a clerk? Why did you want to own it?
I guess I just had the natural aspiration, and I'm competitive. Okay. So if there is, if the moon can be achieved, I'm going to try to achieve. That's what you're going to go for. Exactly.
Where do you think that drive comes from? Because at 10, it's already inside you.
Yes. Well, I guess I would have seen my parents, and both would have worked 3 jobs, and they were high in values. They led by example. They didn't take shortcuts. They worked hard. As I said, they led by example, and they just instilled that in me. And being the eldest, I felt like I had to take care of my siblings, because while they were
if they're going to work 3 jobs, then someone has to help out at home.
So there was no sibling rivalry. It was just like, this is what you do as the eldest child. So responsibility was thrusted upon me from an early age, but it was natural. I always say that I was fortunate to have gotten my BSc early in life.
Now your BSc is?
Behind shop counter.
You learned from watching, from doing, exactly. From seeing your parents in action.
And actually, by the time I was 12, they had now they now acquired a store. It was a small store, and we sold shoes, clothing, cloth.
Did you help out at your parents' store?
Cloth, brassieres,
okay.
Everything. So at 2:30 p.m. every day, my dad he had now gotten a job as a salesman for Singer Sewing Machine Company.
Okay.
So he was selling sewing machines. So at 2:30 he would leave the store, and I would now take over at 12.
At 12?
Yes. So in addition to that, my mother was an Avon lady.
Okay.
So she would go and get the orders, and my job was to go to Kingston, take the bus to Kingston, which was a 3.5 or 4-hour journey to Kingston, to procure the order. and then we'd come back home another 3.5 hours, 4 hours, and then we would segregate what I brought home and make deliveries. So from an early age, I was introduced to responsibility, whether it be family responsibility, taking care of my siblings, whether it be to help in the store, or, as I said, go to Kingston, which is a 3-4 hour trek on one of these country buses.
With the windows open and people hanging
exactly,
on.
Exactly.
Many times.
And I can remember, I would have cash in my pocket. So I would tie my pocket from the inside. So pickpockets couldn't
take your money.
Couldn't take my money, right? So we grew up quickly because we had responsibilities.
But it seems like happy times. It seems like you were engaged in the family and you were enjoying yourself. Is that how it felt then, or is that just in retrospect?
You know, when everybody is alike, you don't feel in any way deprived.
Got it.
Right? So, as I said, we were free and free to roam. I didn't see the responsibilities as a chore. It was just what we did.
Got it. So let's stay in that time period. It's 1962. You're 11 years old. It's the first day of school, and someone makes an indelible impression on you, a Mr. Grosset. So tell me about that.
So in Jamaica, we go to high school at 11. Mm-hmm. So, and we have to write a national examination. At the time, it was called the Common Entrance Exam.
Okay.
So it was the early January 1962, my first day in high school. And we're in the auditorium being addressed by the custos.
Which is like a governor of the area.
Yes, the custos of the parish.
Parish.
It would be equivalent to the lieutenant governor of the province.
Got it.
So his name was Mr. Grosset. So Mr. Grosset, in his speech to us, said, "Boys and girls, opportunity knocks but once." When he made those utterances, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, what if when my one opportunity comes knocking, I'm sleeping, or I'm staring out the window, which I always do, gaze, daydream, or I'm playing marbles.
Which is what people did.
Which is what people did, right? Then I thought, oh my gosh, my life is going to be over if I don't catch that one opportunity.
When it comes.
So that was age 12 until age 23, 11 years. I didn't gaze, I didn't sleep, I didn't play marbles. I'm looking for the opportunities. Until this friend of mine said, "Mike, why do you look so sleep deprived?" I said, "Well, Mr. Grosset put the fear into me." So what did Mr. Grosset say to you? And I told him. He said, no, Mr. Grosset was all wrong. Opportunity knocks every day. But you have to be in a position to recognize when opportunities are knocking, and secondly, to grasp them. In fact, the Chinese, they summarize it beautifully by defining the word crisis. So it's like an equation. Crisis equals danger plus opportunity. So you can't get an opportunity unless there's a crisis. But when there's a crisis, how do you feel? Oh, you feel terrible. You look pallid, right? You're paralyzed. You can't think. That's because you're focused on the first component part of that definition. This is the danger component. Now, whenever there's a crisis, it's natural to feel that way. But always invoke the Chinese definition, which is crisis equals danger plus opportunity. Then what that will do, it will allow you to take a deep breath and then ask yourself the question, where are the opportunities?
From this crisis.
From this crisis.
Okay, so you're 23, you realized you should have slept more, you could have gazed more. What is the first crisis that you find opportunity in at that age? When is it that the idea, the concept really come to work for you?
So at 23, I had gone back to Jamaica, having graduated from McMaster as an engineer. So in 1977, 76, I was now 24, 76, 25. I came back to Canada to look for, to start my career. I'd gone back to Jamaica. I spent 2 years working for the government because I was on a scholarship.
Got it.
So I came back after the 2 years stint were completed, and now I had to find a job in Canada. So I sent out 100 resumes.
Okay.
I got 100 rejections.
What kind of jobs were you applying
Civil
for?
engineering.
Civil engineering.
So
okay.
there must have been a recession for civil engineers at that point in time. So I had 3 job offers. One was to be a long-haul truck driver. The second was to be a soap salesman for this pyramid scheme company.
Yeah.
And the third was to become an investment salesman selling mutual fund for investors group.
How did it feel? You had gotten a civil degree, you'd come to a country like Canada, you dealt with the winters, you had learned, you competed, you're wearing an iron ring, so you were successful. And now, instead of working in your chosen field, these other options come. How do you make sense of that?
It was a low point in my life in terms of confidence.
Okay.
When you are out there trying to get a job and you have 100 rejections, that was, to me, the lowest point in my career. But out of that came an opportunity. So it was a crisis.
That was your crisis?
Yes. But at the time, I didn't realize that the opportunity was, it gave me an opportunity to really think outside of what my natural, normal trajectory would have been.
Because at that point you were thinking about being a
Engineering.
civil engineer. That's
Civil
what you
engineering.
trained for. It's a good job. It's a profession.
I
get paid regularly.
And that's what I was trained for, etc., etc. So I took the job as a salesman selling mutual funds for investors group.
Okay.
So at 20, this was 1977, May of 1977. So at 20, I was 26 years old, and at 26 as an immigrant, you know no one who has money.
For who are you going to sell to?
Exactly, who am I going to sell mutual funds to? So this particular Sunday, so they sent me to training school for 5 days, Monday to Friday. Came back, I was on the following Monday morning, I was now supposed to go out and sell.
After your big training.
Exactly. So on Saturday, my blood pressure went up to, I guess, 200 over 100, right? It just was off the chart. I was nervous. Monday's coming, and I have no one to see. I don't have a client list, a prospect list. So Sunday, even more nervous. My mom was coming to visit with me. So I went to Pearson to pick her up, and the flight was late. So I thought, 2 hours late. So I thought it was May, so it was spring. So I thought, what am I going to do in the next 2 hours? And the foremost thought on my mind was, where am I going to get prospects to see?
That's what you were thinking about.
Right. So I thought, okay, let me go and just drive around the neighborhood. This is in Malton,
Okay.
right? Mississauga, Malton, Mississauga.
Mississauga.
So as I was driving, spring 1977, I saw people tending to their gardens. So I thought, Mike, there they are. There are your prospects.
People tending to their gardens want to buy mutual funds.
Yes.
Okay.
So I said, okay, the next person I see, I'm going to close my eyes, grit my teeth, brace, put the car in park.
And get out of the car.
Get out of the car. And now I'm live in front of a real live prospect. I have to say something, right? So that's exactly what I did. Nervous as hell, put the car in park, gritted my teeth, jumped out of the car, and I was standing in front of a prospect. I said, good afternoon, sir. I fibbed a little bit. I'm in the neighborhood working with members of this community, and I'm showing them how to, with their income taxes saved, create a mountain of assets which will see them through their retirement.
So proper tax planning will give you an opportunity to save for the future.
Yes.
So I'm not asking you to stop doing what you're doing, I'm just asking you to do it smarter.
Exactly.
Got it.
So I could see you early next week or later in the week. Which would you prefer, sir? So beginner's luck, Sean.
I don't know if that's luck or right time, right place, or the 25 years of working experience, but they gave you the interview.
I had I made 6 approaches. I got 5 appointments.
And you got your mother.
And
so you managed to do all of this in the time.
6 approaches, 5 appointments. So in the next, remember, I was a bouncer at McMaster while taking some part-time courses. In the and I was making $2.50 per hour in 1977. So I had no transit. This was my last paycheck.
Yeah.
Right. So now I had prospects to see. In the first month, I made $10,000.
Wow.
$10,000.
In 77, that's a lot of
A
money.
lot of money. So I thought, okay, this cold calling business is profitable, but I need to really amp it up.
Scale it up, ramp it up, yeah.
So what I did, I took the $10,000 and went and bought myself a Mercedes-Benz.
Okay, I have to stop you right here. You don't have any other money coming in. You're doing a job that you're not formally trained for in an area. You have all of 5 prospects under the wing. You've sold for 30 days. And you decide to buy a top-of-the-line expensive car. What are you thinking? Is it a means to make more money, or is it a means to show people you've made money, or is it a car you've just always wanted?
So just to qualify,
Please.
I didn't just buy a Mercedes-Benz. I went straight to the top and bought the largest Mercedes-Benz, the most
fancy one.
The 450 SEL.
Why?
Why? Because I thought, I needed to differentiate. I need to differentiate myself. And you don't see every day a young immigrant, a young black person, driving around in a big Mercedes, approaching you to buy.
Not in the 70s.
In the 70s to buy investments. Okay. So that was my first lesson in one of the three important characteristics of a successful professional and a successful business.
So there are 3 criteria, 3 approaches for a successful business, successful professional. And they are?
And the first one was you have to every day work on differentiating yourself in the marketplace. I didn't realize it at the time, but I instinctively thought, I need to create some distinction.
You didn't think being the only black immigrant driving a Mercedes at Investors Group was enough of a distinction?
That was increasing the distinction.
Ah, got it.
Right?
Okay.
So what that would do, it would build curiosity.
How does he get the Mercedes?
Exactly.
He must know what to do when it comes to investing.
Exactly.
Maybe I should listen to him.
Exactly. So that's the first.
Okay.
But now later in life, when I was able to look back at my career and analyze, to analyze what were the characteristics that made me different.
Okay.
The first made me a true professional. The first was I differentiated myself, and it was something that was topical in my mind.
Okay.
I have to play on my differences.
You got to turn into them. You got to make them the reason people come to you.
Exactly.
Not the reason people go.
So the first thing I had to contend with was my accent. I'm a Jamaican selling mutual funds to Canadians. My accent is thick. What am I going to do with this accent?
Okay.
Am I going to drop the accent and take speech therapy?
Yeah. Or watch a lot of TV and try to copy what they say, yeah.
Or am I just going to say, well, I want to be the best me I can be. And the best me I can be is who I am. So the accent stays.
Perfect.
So it was part of also the differentiation. So being different, building on your differences, amplifying your differences is a characteristic that is a hallmark of a successful professional.
Can you share with us the other 2 before I forget to ask you?
The second is every day you have to behave in such a way that you are accreting, enhancing your reputation.
Every day.
Every day.
Increase your reputation.
And so in other words, you do nothing to sully it at the worst case, and everything to advance it. So, and the three aren't necessarily in priority order.
Okay.
So you have to be distinctive, you have to differentiate.
Differentiation.
You have to make sure that your reputation is being enhanced every day. Okay. And thirdly, you have to really be fully engaged in wanting to address clients' needs.
So differentiation, reputation, and customer-centric focus.
Yes.
So your success as a professional is helping your clients succeed.
Yes. So now you have so when I would sit around the kitchen table with my prospects, I would ask myself, what is the highest value add I can give to this family tonight? What is that? And the answer kept coming back to me. Make them wealthy. That's the highest value add any advisor can give to the person or the family.
That's why people come to you.
Yeah. Make them wealthy. Or is there a formula that if you practice consistently, the only outcome is wealth? Is there such a formula?
Not that I'm aware of, but
Really?
Working hard is necessary, but it's not often sufficient.
Yes. So this was 1977.
Okay.
2001, Professor Sean, you're saying there isn't a formula. But, Professor Sean, I figured it out by 1978.
Well, that's why you're a billionaire and I'm a professor. So what is the formula?
So the formula is, so what I did, I wanted to codify a formula, and then after codifying it, hardwiring it, so it becomes who I am.
Okay.
So I observed, so at the time we didn't have Google, so we couldn't Google it.
For sure.
But even today, if you Google it, is there a formula that is, that to create wealth? Lots of books will show up, right?
Yeah.
But I figured it out by 1978. And through observation of wealthy people, through studying, I came to the conclusion that every single person who created wealth, not inherited, not won it in the lottery, but created it, did 5 things.
5 things.
The first thing they did was to own a few high-quality businesses.
Own a few high-quality businesses, okay?
Number 2, they make sure they really understand those few businesses.
So be really good at lesser things, a handful of things, okay?
Number 3, they make sure that those few businesses are domiciled in strong long-term growth industries.
Got it. Look for large and growing markets, yeah?
Yes. In other words, a rising tide will lift all boats. So you need a rising tide underneath you as a business, metaphorically. Number 4, every single successful person has used other people's money prudently.
OPM, other people's money.
Right. And number 5, the attitude and the time frame that every single successful people has with respect to ownership is long-term, intergenerational.
Okay.
So those were the 5 principles that I observed and codified as to how wealth is created in the real world.
Now, there's a difference between knowing something and being able to execute against it. You know, you start off as an investment salesperson for a large company, and where you end only God will know, but the road itself, how do those 5 principles guide you on the road to where you are today? Were you able to instantly act on them? Did you have to keep them on the forefront of your mind? Did you take little steps?
So we're now up to 19. I worked for Investors Group for 1.5 years, till 1979. And so I left Investors and went to another mutual fund company as a salesman. But now Investors, they were a captive sales force. You could only sell their products.
Got it.
So what I wanted to do was to be like a broker. I could sell all the products in the marketplace. So I went to a company called Regal Capital Planners, non-existent now. So when I got there, I started selling Mackenzie Financial Corporation's products, industrial products. So I thought, you know, I have to make sure that I wanted to find a way to transition to be a business owner.
So instead of selling stocks and owners, you want to own the company,
Right.
help hire the sales.
Right. So I thought I have to be a great investor. So I have to practice what I preach. And more importantly, I have to live my principles. I have to live my principles. So in 1983, I was 32 years old, I went out and I borrowed $500,000, 500,000 in 83, to put into one stock, Mackenzie Financial Corporation.
Now that stock turned out to be such a good move.
Yes.
And in 4 years, it had appreciated 700%.
It had gone from yes, exactly. So it went from $1 to $7, 600% appreciated.
So 600%
Right.
appreciated. But you were still borrowing the money, so there was a little cost of capital, but so insignificant.
Insignificant.
Was this your first home run? Was this the first time that you said these values actually work? It's not just a theory. I just made $3 million or $4 million. Or however.
No, because at the same time I had also bought Berkshire Hathaway, because Berkshire Hathaway met those 5 criteria.
For sure. Warren Buffett's
Mackenzie
company.
met those 5 criteria. So what implicitly I was doing, I didn't know it at the time because I was just living it instinctively.
Yeah.
The ideal situation is to be consciously competent.
Consciously competent.
So therefore you want to be conscious as to what it is you're doing when you're doing it. But you can only you can only get to that state when you observe your behavior in retrospect.
Yes.
So in retrospect, what I was doing was governing my life, but intuitively, what I knew I had to do to become eminently successful was to be a disciple of something.
Okay.
In other words, every eminently successful person is a disciple of something. I wanted to define for myself what that something is.
Did you want to create it? Did you want to swipe it or steal with integrity, pride everywhere?
Yes.
Did you want to copy it from an existing person? How did you find that approach?
So the first thing you have to be conscious that you want to be a disciple. You want to be a disciple of some cause, because when you're a disciple of some cause, it will give you passion, which is the fuel needed to get you through air pockets. When you hit air pockets, it's your passion.
The turbulence.
And you can't be passionate unless you have a cause that is in your pathology.
Okay, so
right?
your cause was?
My cause was, I'm going to be a disciple of these 5 principles.
Got it.
I'm going to live them, I'm going to lead by example, and by demonstration, people are going to say, well, I believe.
Now, you made this move to ownership around 1987 when you acquired a company called Advantage Investment Counsel.
Yes.
When it started, I don't want to be too on the nose here, it had less than $1 million of assets in management. And yet, under your leadership in what looks to be about 15 years, you turned $1 million of assets into $10 billion of assets. That's no small feat in 15 years. What do you attribute the keys to that success?
Well, firstly, having the framework. How is wealth created? The 5 laws. I thought, I'm selling mutual funds. Why do people buy mutual funds? They buy mutual funds to create wealth. So now let me test the generic mutual fund product against the framework, the background of these 5 principles to see if the generic mutual fund product would pass or fail.
Okay. So do they own a few high quality businesses? Do they really understand those businesses? Are they long-term growth industries? Are they things, these 5?
Exactly. And I thought on each of those 5 counts, your mutual fund, your generic mutual fund would fail. It fails 5 out of 5. So I thought, this is crazy. It's either I am out of my mind, I'm not thinking clearly, or an entire industry is dysfunctional. Because your typical mutual fund has 200 companies. How can you understand 200 companies? Impossible.
Exactly.
And if you own 200 companies, are you sure you have 200 crackerjack CFOs to make sure you're using other people's money prudently?
Properly.
Are you sure the 200 companies are in strong long-term growth industries? Can't be.
No.
Right? And lastly, the turnover ratio for your typical mutual fund is 80% per year. The inverse of that is the average hold period is 14 months. I don't know of one business person who buys and sells his or her businesses every 14 months.
No, it's too transactional. It doesn't give you time to gain knowledge and advantage and competitive.
Exactly.
But this is your first time being the boss, so to speak, and you're creating new products to address unmet market needs. That can be a big risk because one can ask, why do all the other companies sell that and you sell this? Was that just music to your ears? Was that just proving that by looking for something different, you could provide an unmet market need, a different solution?
So that was exactly what prospect would say to me. As they said, well, your mutual fund doesn't look like a mutual fund. It has only 15 stocks, and 60% of the 15 stocks are in the mutual fund, are owning investment mutual fund companies. The management companies, the investors group.
Yeah, because you knew them.
Because I understood them. The McKinsey, the AGFs of the world, and later CI, Invesco, etc. We are the largest shareholder of all of those companies. So I said, it may not look like a mutual fund, but what is your ambition here? To buy a mutual fund or to create wealth? Which?
Exactly.
If it's to create wealth, let's talk about how wealth is created.
And let's talk about who gets wealthy when the mutual funds of traditional people sell.
Exactly. So I would walk them now through the 5 laws. So please tell me, where's the flaw in my logic? If there's a flaw, don't buy. If your ambition is to create wealth and there's no flaw, then you have to buy.
So,
but more importantly, you now have a tool that can guide you when anyone asks you to come and say, look, I have a great investment for you. All you now have to do is say, hold on one moment.
Let me take out Michael Leachin's 5 laws and see how it stands up. 5 characteristics.
I need 5 tick boxes. That's all I need.
And the proof really is both in the number of people who gave you their future wealth, which is a real trust when someone gives you their children's inheritance, but also your results. I tried to find 15-year returns for that time period. There was nothing even close to $1 million to $10 billion. Like it's not even. I can't even do the math. On the increase.
That's a different result in terms of that would have been the asset on our assets under management growing.
Yes, but that's an indicator that the people's investments.
No, it's not.
Okay,
that's an indicator of how well we gathered funds.
Oh,
right?
So
not necessarily how well we manage the funds. That's it.
Are you proud of how you manage them as well as how you grew them?
Very, because But
you only get more money if you're successful. People don't keep giving you checks time and time again. So growing the asset class is equivalent to giving people what they think they want. Exactly. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it.
Exactly. So now, remember, I started in January of 1987 with $800,000 in other people's money, AUM, assets under management. Then, so by October of 1987, we had gotten up to 13 million. So I would manage during the day and go out and sell at night. So we had now gotten up to 13 million. Then October the 19th, 1987 came, the crash.
Black Monday.
Black Monday, the stock market went down, Dow Jones went down by 23.75% on that day.
But your 5 rules still would survive in a recession because you're taking a long-term view, no?
Yes, but
that
still, assets went from 13 million to 8 because everybody was freaking out in one day. So now for the next, from 80, that's 87, for the next 4 years until 1991, every day I would come into work and say, Mike, every day you have to make sure that your behavior is in keeping with these principles because you're building a track record, right? And every day that goes by is one day more added to your track record. Focus on the playing field, right? So by 1991, 4 years, we had the best track record in Canada, the best. 32% per year for 4 years, average over 4 years. And the assets started piling in because it was the performance now bore out the philosophy. And I kept going, I kept singing the same song.
It didn't change
I didn't
when the
change
market
the message.
changed. Yeah.
I didn't change the message. I was consistent in my behavior.
Because the fundamentals didn't change.
The fundament. So it was an opportunity for people to buy because there was this dissonance between what was happening in the marketplace and what was really happening in the companies themselves.
Well, a financial crisis gives opportunity.
Yes.
Right? Because you can buy low, you can be contrarian, you can do a lot of good things in a down economy.
But you will only realize it's an opportunity if you have a framework that is absolute.
Totally agree.
Right? So your framework has to be absolute. So in later when I'm in life, when I started observing, I as I said, I try to codify and hardwire. I came to the conclusion that to be successful requires another set of dogmas. Number one, you have to live your life based on a set of frameworks that are absolute. In this case, the relevant one was the 5 laws. I wouldn't change. I'll be a martyr for those laws. So number two, you have to be able to control your emotions. So when the market is crashing, you still have to be able to control your emotions. And the only way to control your emotions so that you can make decisions that are consistent. The only way to control your emotions is if you have a framework that is absolute, a value system.
And you always return to it.
And you
always go
back to it, irrespective of what's happening around you.
Sunshine, rain,
yes.
Winter, you just stick with what you believe.
It's your religion, right?
Yeah.
And number three, the third thing we need to be successful in life or in business is we need access.
Tell me about access.
You need access to people, opportunities, finance,
resources,
healthcare, right? In order, so let's not revisit what I just said. We need, to be successful in life, we need a framework that's absolute. We need to be able to control our emotions, and thirdly, we need access. Forget about investing for a while. Let's talk about life.
Okay.
You could have 2 out of 3. You have the best framework. You're religious.
You follow it every day.
And secondly, you control your emotions because you have
a framework,
a value system, a framework. But if you have no access, you won't be successful.
True.
Right? If you have no access to healthcare, you're gonna die. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So not only do you need to know framework, control emotions, and access, 2 out of 3 isn't good enough.
Just like 4 out of 5 isn't good enough for you to invest.
Exactly. You have to have all 3 out of 3. So most people don't know that they need a framework, control emotions, and access. So they're unconscious. So if you don't know, it is impossible to know that not only do you need to know, you need to have be conscious about all 3 out of 3. 2 out of 3 doesn't cut it.
Doesn't work.
Right?
Let's go back for a second and talk about something that I know you're passionate about, and that is coming to Canada. Talk about your experience, what brought you here, why you came back after a few years, why you've decided, and you spent time in Jamaica too, but why you decided to build your businesses here. Let's talk about entrepreneurship and newcomers and immigration.
So I'd gone back to Jamaica, as I'd mentioned earlier.
But you went to school in Canada.
I went to university, engineering school.
Why? It wasn't for the weather?
No, because I wanted a different experience other than a Caribbean experience.
Okay.
So I came to engineering school at McMaster. Went back, got married to a Canadian, and after 2 years, she wanted to come back to Canada. So I thought, I can make it anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I came back to Canada, and hence, this was 1976. In 77, I started in my professional career. So, as I said, I had to cold call. But cold calling was a function of having a framework, right? And therefore, I had content
to share,
and I had passion. Okay. When you believe in whatever cause, people will feel your passion. They'll hear it, they'll taste it, they'll smell it.
And they'll want to be part of it.
And they'll want to be a part of it. So as an entrepreneur, we have to find, I had to find what my passion was so that I could deliver my content in a way that will be 5 cents.
Yeah, and also differentiate you and be a long-term thought. So why do you think so many newcomers, so many immigrants to this country and to many countries become entrepreneurs?
We have no choice. We couldn't get a job.
See, that's really, I totally agree
Yeah.
with you. People make the mistake thinking entrepreneurship is a science or an art or a magic. It's a choice. You get up every day and you do what needs to be done. And some people call that entrepreneurship, and some people call that hustling, and some people call that living. So is that foremost on your mind when you go to hire people? Do you look at what's driving them? Do you have a prevalence for locals versus new people? How do you see entrepreneurs and newcomers in this country?
So, very good question. Because at Regal, when I was a branch manager in 1979, so I was 28. Mm-hmm. So I know Mr. Rockwell, who was a founder, owner of Regal, he said, I don't have a presence in Hamilton. You can be the branch manager. So I now needed to recruit other advisors and train them. So what were the qualities I looked for? Mm-hmm. Number one, hunger. Hunger. You have to have fire in your belly. You have to be hungry.
And that comes before intelligence, access, hunger.
Yes, hunger. You have to have fire in your belly. You need to have the propensity or the willingness to take risk, right? And I'll explain that to you. So hunger, risk-taking, you have to be outgoing, right? I was not naturally outgoing. Mm-hmm. You would not, no one would be able to tell today. What I had to do, because I was an engineer, mm-hmm. and selling was not in my line of sight. Nor did I know anyone who was a professional salesperson. Yeah. So, but I thought, I have to be able to become a great communicator. I have to become a great communicator. So, there's another set of 3 principles, dogmas, that I hold near and dear. They are, if you want to be successful, number 1, identify a role model. Who before me has had the best outcome in the world in this endeavor? Identify a role model. Number 2, kneel at the role model's feet and get the recipe from the role model. Role model, how did you do it? I'm speaking metaphorically.
I understand.
And thirdly, don't put your thumbprint on the recipe. Execute the recipe faithfully. Right?
Okay.
Role model, recipe, execute. So, my role model, right, in terms of business, was Warren Buffett from 1978.
That's well before he's a global phenomenon. That's well before his 30 years of track record.
Yes, and I'd go to Omaha, and there were 100 of us at the Orpheum Theater, mm-hmm. in the early 80s. So that gave me a beacon. So we need role models. Role models are important. So now in business, so getting back to the qualities
that you look for, yeah.
Perseverance because of hunger, mm-hmm. passion because of belief, mm-hmm. right? Being able to, so now in my case, I was not a good communicator, but I wanted to become a good communicator because I noticed that every single really successful person, they're excellent communicators. So I thought, how do I go from being a terrible communicator to a reasonably good communicator? So role model, who is a role model for being the best communicator? The mime artist.
The mime, like the wall?
Like exactly, the mime artist. Because the mime artist doesn't speak to you.
It's all about It's
all about miming, right? So that was my conclusion, right? So where do I get lessons? How do I get lessons in
Miming.
miming? Right? So I said, okay. So I didn't have any money to pay for miming lessons. So what I'd do, on Sunday mornings, I would turn the TV on to the Crystal Cathedral. What's his name? Dr. Robert Schuller. Crystal Cathedral. And he's an excellent communicator.
Top notch.
Right? So I'd turn the TV on, turn the sound down, volume down.
And just watch
his behavior.
Now, did you emulate some things? Because I've heard a lot of really smart people say they go out, they find who they want to be, they emulate that technique until it becomes so natural that it's then their technique where they would never have had it.
Yes.
So did you come away with that from the Warren Buffett, from the Crystal Cathedral? Is that where you feel you became a great communicator?
Yes. Because, well, Mr. Buffett wasn't really a great communicator.
No.
Because that was not his business. He's more a geek, right? An annual report geek.
Yeah, he's a
right?
quanta.
Exactly. Robert Schuller is a great communicator. And what I learned from Mr. Schuller is that he just acted naturally and emphatically, right? And he was passionate. So you could see it, you could feel it, and people buy passion. That's what they buy. They buy passion more than content.
Yeah.
So if you can combine passion in terms of your belief with content, bingo.
Yeah, content is the head, passion's the heart, if you can get people together.
Exactly.
Michael, lots of people make money and keep it for themselves. You've made extraordinary amounts of money for yourself, for your investors, for your shareholders, but you've also taken a very aggressively a stance on philanthropy. And your philanthropy is wide-reaching. Why is that? What's the thought behind that?
Well, firstly, a business should reflect the values of its owners. And this was really, so in my case, I'm always conscious of where I'm coming from. And it was crystallized about 20 years ago. I was in Port Antonio, Jamaica. And I was on vacation, so I woke up this particular morning, I was at the marina, went walking, and I went to the far corner of the marina, and I saw this young man, 6 a.m. in the morning. He was peering out at the horizon.
Much like you did over the cliff all those years ago.
So I stopped and I said, "Hi, how are you? What's your name?" He said, "My name is John Shaw." I said, "John, what do you do for a living?" He said, "Well, I'm a landscaper." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, I cut grass with a machete." "How often do you work?" He said, "Sporadically." So we chatted 10 minutes. When I left, I said, "Okay, John, look, you have a commodity, time, on your hands. Lots of that, lots of it. You have to be careful because time can either hurt you or it can send you to jail."
Tell me about that, because that's not so apparent.
In other words, having time on your hands, you can either use it productively or use it in a way that is unproductive. Right? So just be careful. Just be conscious of how you use your time.
Okay.
So when I left John Shaw, I thought to myself, wow, John Shaw, Michael Leachin, we're both from Port Antonio. We both came from humble beginnings. When I was born, my mom was unemployed for 6 months after I was born. She was taken in by the helpers. So we're both coming from the same place. When John Shaw looks out at the horizon, when John Shaw's children look out at the horizon, what do they see? Do they see bright skies? Do they feel that tomorrow is going to be better than today? Are they optimistic? And the answer is no, no, no. When Mike Leachin's children look out at the horizon, do they think tomorrow is going to be better than today? Do they feel optimistic? Do they see bright skies? The answer is yes, yes, yes. What's the difference between Michael Leachin and John Shaw? It's only by the grace of God. Wow.
That's pretty impactful.
Wow. Mike, you are an unlikely statistic. What are you not going to do? You have a podium. You have a podium. Podium because of your success. how are you going to use this podium? Because at the end of the day, whether they make a billion or 10 billion or a million, it doesn't matter in terms of how you feel as a human being. Once you have made enough, it doesn't accrete incrementally anymore to how you feel as a human being. What will impact you as a human being is what you can do to uplift others. So that John Shaw story crystallized it for me. How am I going to use my resources to uplift others?
No, you certainly are. Now, Michael, we're going to have to wrap up, and we're talking about role models, and I have no doubt that you are a role model for so many. You just have to Google you and look at the YouTube videos of people talking about what you mean to them. You've had a chance to sit down with luminaries like the Oprah Winfreys of the world, President Obamas of the world, and you keep up with them just fine. What advice can you give students watching this that are in that first phase of their career? They may not have found their passion yet. They may not have found what they're extraordinary at. They may be just developing as human beings. What message would you like them to take away from your story?
That success in life is about a process. There's a process. And again, I can only articulate this process because I'm able to look back at my history. And the process goes like this. You start off by observing, just observing. Secondly, you create a hypothesis from your observation. Thirdly, you stress test your hypothesis.
With real world people.
With real world situations. Fourthly, if the stress test is positive, you codify it.
You double down on it. You do more.
You codify it. You write it down. You codify it. And then lastly, you hardwire it and it becomes who you are.
Well, who you are is a fascinating person and a wonderful role model. Well, Michael, thank you for sharing your fascinating story. I'm sure you will continue to inspire. I'm Dr. Sean Wise. Thanks for watching The Naked Entrepreneur.